Have you ever felt a place hold on to a memory so tightly it refuses to let go? For Liam, Chloe, and Sam, their childhood summer camp wasn't just holding a memory. It was a prison built from a single tragic day 20 years ago. They were estranged, scattered by the winds of guilt and unspoken words, until a summons brought them back to the rotting cabins and overgrown trails of Camp Clearwater. Liam, ever the skeptic, scoffed at the idea of ghosts. For him, the past was just that past. Chloe, however, always attuned to the unseen, felt it the moment she stepped onto the grounds. A cold dread that clung to the warm, nostalgic air. And Sam, the peacemaker, just wanted to fix what was broken, desperate to mend the fractures in their family, fractures he felt responsible for. The camp was a wreck. Vines choked the sign, docks were collapsing, yet strange pockets of the place were pristine, as if untouched by time. The bunk beds in their old cabin looked freshly made. The mess hall smelled faintly of yesterday's pancakes. It was unsettling, a flicker of the past in a decaying present. Their first night was just strange. The sun seemed to set too quickly, plunging them into an unnerving darkness, filled with the distorted whispers of children's laughter. They argued, old wounds reopening with ease. Liam blamed Chloe for her voodoo nonsense. Chloe accused Liam of being emotionally numb, and Sam just tried to keep them from tearing each other apart all over again. Then they woke up, and it was morning again. The same morning, the same argument, the same strange feeling of unease. The first loop was disorienting. The second was terrifying. By the third, they knew something was profoundly wrong. The camp was forcing them to relive the day of the accident, the day that tore their world apart. With each loop, the memories grew clearer, more vivid. The sun beating down, the splash in the lake, the scream that was cut short, and something else started to appear. A figure, dark and indistinct, lurking at the edge of the woods, its form shifting like smoke. It watched them, a silent hunter in their personal hell. They realized it wasn't just a figure. It was a manifestation. Their collective guilt, their shared trauma, given a shadowy form. It was hunting them, and with each reset, it got closer. The psychological pressure was immense. The landscape itself seemed to warp with their fear. The perpetually calm lake would suddenly ripple without wind, reflecting faces that weren't theirs. Trees would glitch, repeating their swaying motion like a corrupted video file. The world was breaking down, mirroring the collapse of their own minds. They were trapped not just in a time loop, but in a labyrinth of their own repressed memories. Chloe, using her intuitive nature, began to piece it together. The loop wasn't just punishment. It was a demand. It wanted something from them. It wanted the truth. Not the story they had told the world, not the lies they had told themselves, but the whole ugly, devastating truth of what happened on that dock 20 years ago. Liam fought it, his rational mind rebelling against the supernatural nightmare they were in. He tried to find a logical escape, a physical boundary to cross, but every path just led back to the center of the camp, back to the loop's beginning. Sam was unraveling, the guilt he'd carried for 2 decades now a physical weight, slowing him down, making him an easy target for the shadow. They had to work together, a feat they hadn't managed since they were children. Chloe guided them through the fragmented memories. Sam provided the emotional core that held them together, and even Liam's skepticism became a tool, grounding them when the surreal nature of the camp threatened to swallow them whole. They had to remember what they had each done, what they had each failed to do. The climax was inevitable. The loop was tightening, the time between resets shortening, the shadow figure becoming more solid, its features coalescing into a horrifying composite of their own younger faces. They knew where they had to go, the old dock, the epicenter of their pain. As they stood on the rotting planks, the shadow emerged from the unnaturally dark water. It was them, as children, their eyes empty voids. The air grew bone-chillingly cold. The distorted whispers became a single, accusatory scream, repeated over and over. Chloe knew what they had to do. "We have to say it," she yelled over the psychic noise. "All of it, at the same time." For a moment they hesitated, the terror of confession almost greater than the terror of the creature before them. Then, looking at each other, seeing the same fear, the same pain reflected in their siblings' eyes, they found the strength. "I pushed him," Liam choked out, the words tearing from his throat. "I dared him to do it," Chloe sobbed. Her mystic calm shattered. "I didn't get help in time," Sam screamed, tears streaming down his face. "I just ran." The moment the three truths hit the air, the world fractured. The shadow figure shrieked and dissolved into black dust. The lake boiled. The sky tore open. The camp began to violently disintegrate around them. Cabins collapsing, trees turning to static. It wasn't an escape. It was an expulsion. They ran, hand in hand, a bond reforged in confessed horror. They scrambled through a collapsing boundary of reality, a shimmering wall of light and noise, and burst out onto the hot asphalt of a normal highway. Cars sped by. The sun was just setting. Behind them, there was nothing. No camp, no lake, no woods, just an empty field. They were free, free from the loop, free from the place. But as they stood there, panting, crying, and holding on to each other, they knew they would never be free from the truth. The camp was gone, but the shadow was now inside them, a shared memory, a terrible secret that would link them together forever. They had survived their past, but now, finally, they had to learn how to live with it. This story is a powerful reminder of how unresolved trauma can haunt us. The siblings' journey teaches us that facing our deepest fears and truths, no matter how painful, is the only way to break the cycles that hold us captive. It's a story of psychological horror, but also one of profound healing and the unbreakable bonds of family. What did you think of their escape? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoy explorations into the darker side of the human psyche, be sure to subscribe for more.